let's hop across the pond one more time. One of my favorite people in British politics is John Bercow, Speaker of the House. He's head of Parliament. And I think he's a Tory, if I'm not mistaken. Impartial, fair, at least from my perspective, especially from the standpoint of American politics. If John Bercow was an American politician and he was a Republican, it's hard for Brits to understand how detached from real people the political spaces, and how much they push the boundaries where they don't necessarily care that much about the Constitution, don't necessarily care about the best interests of the American public, and for the most part they push their own political agenda. Bercow seems to resist those things, at least from my particular perspective, looking from outside looking in. I've liked him. Order! Order! Now, Bercow takes out a whipping stick. He does this for whatever reason. This was in my head when I watch what I'm about to show you. Bercow essentially did this.
Yes, we do.
Then grease me up, woman!
I love that. I know he's Scottish and I know Bercow's British, but still, it's the grease me up woman that like rips his shirt off. That's essentially what Bercow did today. Bercow, muscles showing. Indignant and annoyed at the government for withdrawing the Brexit vote. And you can understand him. For the most part, this has been going on for 2 years. And there's all sorts of things that kind of led up to this, but what it boils down to is this started this morning. So first, well, yesterday, Theresa May did this. Let's flip this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And with permission, I'd like to make a statement on exiting the European Union. We've now had 3 days of debate on the withdrawal agreement, setting out the terms of our departure from the EU and the political declaration setting out our future relationship after we have left. I've listened very carefully to what has been said in this chamber and out of it. To what has been said in this chamber and out of it by members from all sides. From listening to those views, it is clear that while there is broad support for many of the key aspects of the deal, on one issue, the Northern Ireland backstop, there remains widespread and deep concern. As a result, if we went ahead and held the vote tomorrow, the deal would be rejected by a significant margin. We will therefore defer the vote scheduled for tomorrow and not proceed to divide the House at this time. I set out in my withdrawal agreement, setting out the terms of...
If you're gonna fail, at the very least have some awesome pearls on when you're gonna do it. I've always said before, her blazers and everything else, she is on point. And yeah, if you're gonna look bad in a humiliating day, at the very least have some rockets, some awesome pearls. That's her withdrawing the Brexit vote that was gonna have a historic, monumental, unmitigated, breathtaking loss. One that is gonna breaches the bounds of what has ever taken place in British politics before. Now, Bercow, because she unilaterally pulled this deal, Bercow was annoyed by this. It wasn't just Bercow. A lot of people had sent him requests showing their annoyance and getting off their grievances. Bercow expressed that grievance and expressed that indignation in a sharp rebuke to the government, even given this kind of illusion that, look, this can be a choice of Parliament. This may not necessarily fully be your choice to withdraw that vote. Take a look at Bercow, he grease me up, woman, and takes out a whipping stick.
Order. Before I look to the Father of the House and then other colleagues, I want to say the following. Although the government's intention to halt this debate at this inordinately late stage has been widely leaked to the media in advance, I felt it only appropriate to hear what is proposed before advising the House. Halting the debate after no fewer than 164 colleagues have taken the trouble to contribute will be thought by many members of this House to be deeply discourteous. Indeed, in the hours since news of this intention emerged, many colleagues from across the House have registered that view to me in the most forceful terms. Having taken the best procedural advice, colleagues should be informed that there are two ways of doing this. The first, and in democratic terms, the infinitely preferable way, is for a minister to move at the outset of the debate that the debate be adjourned. This will give the House the opportunity to express its view in a vote whether or not it wishes the debate to be brought to a premature and inconclusive end. I can reassure ministers that I would be happy to accept such a motion so that the House can decide. The alternative is for the government unilaterally to decline to move today's business, which means that the House is not only deprived of its opportunity to vote upon the substance of the debate tomorrow, but also that it is given no chance to express its view today on whether the debate should or should not be allowed to continue. I politely suggest that in any courteous, respectful and mature environment, allowing the House to have a say, its say, on this matter would be the right and, dare I say it, the obvious course to take. Let us see if those who have assured this House and the public over and over and over again that this supremely important vote is going to take place tomorrow without fail wish to rise to the occasion.
The thing is, even though Bercow is saying, look, you should let the parliament vote. I mean, after all, that's the representative, representative government. Theresa May can't do that. You must understand, she doesn't necessarily have a choice in this. Yes, she has a choice, but it's somewhat of a forced choice. I'm saying this in a weird way. I'm saying this poorly. It is true that she has agency where she can say, yes, I can do this. I can have that vote. The problem is, if you have that vote, there is a consequence to that. It's like any other move. You make a move and there's a response. Well, the response is she fails magnificently. It is a humiliating defeat. Do you honestly believe that that woman will want to get out there and withdraw that vote in this humiliating terms where she knows that Corbyn and her enemies are sitting there laughing and smiling like, ugh. Corbyn may get up and show anger and hostility, but when he gets back to his dressing room, he's like, yes! Yes! She can't take the opportunity to fail on that level because she could lose her prime ministership. And even going the way that she's going now, she could potentially lose her prime ministership. Bercow is understandably annoyed by this because I suspect that Bercow knows what I know, that the Prime Minister, one step after the next, has done this with this idea of pressure tactics, and she has failed in these pressure tactics. What I mean by this is she's playing a game of chicken, and she's lost in the game of chicken. She's done multiple things that were end up being politically wrong. One, she calls a snap election to try to break the back of Labour so she can have her own say to do whatever kind of Brexit she wants. That failed. She loses her majority, and she ends up being reliant on the DUP. Going further into this, she's done it not listening to people who kept telling her, no, 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 and she pushed on with this particular, like to call it a dog's Brexit, despite all of these members of her cabinet resigning in protest. And she gets to the point of trying pressure tactics, and she misunderstands how angry Parliament is. And Parliament, even though she has a government itself, holds her government in contempt, and not just holds her government in contempt, puts in beyond a meaningful vote. So not only will they get a vote on whether or not this will pass, meaning the withdrawal bill, but if it doesn't, they would also get a secondary vote on what to do next. Parliament, if it wanted to, could say we're staying in the European Union. Parliament, if it wanted to, could hold a second referendum. Parliament, at that point, would have agency to do whatever it wanted, regardless of what the Prime Minister wanted to do. She would have lost control of her own government. She did this, though. You must understand, she did this with certain things she was unaware of. She was unaware that Jeremy Corbyn was going to gain the majorities that he gained, or the number of people he was going to get, and she was going to lose to that extent. She was unaware that Parliament was going to assert itself and give itself more than just that meaningful vote. Because, understand, the thought was, my deal or no deal. That was her thought. That if I take this up to the last minute, Parliament is against the wall, its face is against the wall, and I'm putting the pressure to you, say, this or nothing, this or nothing. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you really going to have a Mad Max Brexit, or are you going to take my deal? Even though my deal is imperfect, are you going to take my deal or no deal? What are you going to do? Well, the problem with that is, once Parliament said, if we vote your deal down, we have a secondary choice, then that pressure tactic doesn't work anymore. Because the fact of the matter is, Parliament has a say. Parliament has asserted itself and has given itself a say. I hope that makes sense. Her strategy in this was a pressure tactic. The pressure tactic was essentially, you could say, the air was let out the bag at the point where Parliament started to assert itself and started to vote down her motions. We have no idea what's going to take place now. She's running around to the various European leaders to try to get them on board to give her some latitude in regards to the backstop, because the backstop is the most onerous aspect of her Brexit deal. Essentially locks Britain into this kind of client state status where it can't extricate itself from without permission of the European Union. European Union and another partner. Meaning Britain could be in that particular partnership where it can't pull itself from because it legally gave up its sovereignty for years. For years. And some of the other people, particularly the Brexiteers, are making arguments like they could extract concessions from us, be it France and the fishing, be it Britain or Spain and, Gibraltar. So that's where we are. John Bercow and members of Parliament upset. I suspect John Bercow seems to be actually upset and annoyed, but I would imagine other members of Parliament, especially from the standpoint of opposition, is looking at this as an opportunity to try to get another election. From Jeremy Corbyn's standpoint, Jeremy Corbyn wants another election. That's what he wants. Whether he gets it or not, we don't know. He's made the argument that all options are on the table, but simultaneously, though, he's concerned that if he puts out for, or if he goes for another referendum, that he could lose in the next election from a backlash from people who actually did want Brexit. This is fascinating politics. There's a situation where there's somewhat of a no-win situation where you're going to take a hit regardless of what you do because people are on both sides of the ledger. You have almost equal sides. That said, Bercow, grease me up, woman, and taking a whipping stick to Theresa May and the government. So I'm going to end this here. I'm not going to keep this one long because, again, I have a few other stories. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can can always support the content through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all. I think this is the last story for. I think there's one more story, but that story more so concerns the European Union. So I'll see you guys shortly. Thanks all.